What was the saddest reason you've seen an adult crying in public? A few decades ago, my pastor's wife, who also happened to be a very good friend of mine, needed a lung transplant after prednisone destroyed hers. A donor was found and the surgery successful, but afterwards she had an infection that caused her to need plasmapheresis. While undergoing one of these sessions, the nurses transferring her, she was too weak to walk herself, accidentally dropped her, causing some bones to break. As they had become brittle, she began to steadily decline after that. Eventually it became clear her body was too far gone and she couldn't rally the strength to recover. It was heartbreaking. They transitioned her to palliative care. As the end loomed closer, our pastor called each person that his wife wanted to see before she died. I was among those she asked for, so I made the 3-hour trip to Duke Hospital. This trip in itself was one of sadness. I had cried enough to send a flood, although I did my best not to cry in front of her, per my pastor's request. She and I chatted and laughed like normal. We sang a hymn together and I held her in a hug for a long while. We said I love you and goodbye, and I walked out of her room in ICU knowing I'd never see her alive again. I hugged my pastor and held back my tears for his sake, and then I headed to the ladies' restroom to sob privately. However, I was not the only woman with that idea. When I walked into the bathroom, there was a woman hunched over the sink crying hysterically. I was momentarily stunned and wasn't sure what to do. Should I leave and give her privacy? Should I ask her if I could help? Me, the ever socially awkward woman, wasn't sure what to do. I approached her softly and asked, "Ma'am, is there anything I can do for you?" Without warning, she threw herself into my arms, sobbing. I was so surprised, and at first I awkwardly patted her back, but then I thought, oh, what the heck. Just hug her. That's obviously what she needs. And so I did. I stood there and held her in a tight hug while she cried everything out. When she had calmed herself, she pulled away from me and apologized. "Don't apologize. Sometimes we need a shoulder to cry on," was all I could say. She left and I looked at my dress. She had cried so hard that her tears stained it, but that was fine. I sat down in one of the stalls for privacy and cried myself. I cried for my dear friend suffering so much and losing her battle. I cried for my pastor who was about to be widowed. I cried for the stranger I'd just held. I cried because I was losing someone so dear to me. Then I got up and left. 2 weeks later my pastor's wife died. I never did know anything about the other woman, not her name and not what had caused her such distress. I hope she found peace and grace going forward.